It'll be a good start. It'll be awesome. It's always
Perfect.
fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
What's up, Profitable Stylist? Here we go. We got Giovanni with us. Bernard is on the road. He's traveling, so he's gone this week. And Giovanni was with us a couple weeks ago, and it was so much fun hanging out with him. So he's back with us. Good morning, Giovanni. Thank you for showing up.
I'm excited about today. It's a great way to start out 2023, and just looking forward to the new year. It's going to be a good one for all of us.
It is. It is. And what better way to start this year with talking about how to prepare for the future of your business? A lot of people are going to be starting new businesses. A lot of people are going to want to be growing their businesses. Everybody's talking about resolutions, you know, and we're going to throw our hat in the ring on this one too.
Looking forward to it. So, and you were talking about resolutions. I don't know about you. I personally don't do resolutions, but I would love to hear yours if you got some.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. Let's see. I'm going to be better at doing some arbitrary thing. Like those are usually the things that I don't do resolutions. But that's what everybody lists out is, you know, they have this big goal. They have this big plan. And then they're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And January, they're really hardcore because they're pumped up and excited about it. By February, halfway through, it starts dropping off. And then by March, forget about it. You know, nobody does it no more.
Yeah.
So why do you think, why did you stop doing resolutions? And what do you think, why do you think people, you know, do it and can't keep up with it?
Well, I think it just comes down to basic strategy and planning and like lifestyle choices or changes that you make. I would say my opinion of why most people's New Year's resolutions do not work is because they're doing something that's out of the ordinary for them. Meaning by stating a resolution, they're not doing something like journaling daily like the two of us do. And when you start to do something like journaling or just writing down your thoughts and ideas and organizing things in your daily life and making that a routine, that's when you basically would be able to start assessing and doing a New Year's resolution because you're practicing that behavior. That behavior is so foreign to most people because they're not doing those things every day. They're telling themselves on New Year's Eve at, 11 o'clock at night when they're hammered, going into the next year, oh, I'm going to do all this awesome stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then they wake up the next morning hungover as all get out. And they know that they're not going to be eating healthy and doing all that on New Year's Day or even the next day or the next week. And it's going to try to get them out of that momentum. So it's just, it's one of those things where every day before New Year's Eve, I'm practicing this stuff. Every day after, I'm still practicing this stuff. And it becomes a daily part of my routine. It's not something new at the end of the year that I want to try for the next year.
That's my opinion. Way to say it. That really is the best way to say it. Routine is so important. So important. My mom was a huge procrastinator. So everything was, hey, we're going to do this? Yes. Starting tomorrow.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And and one of the things that I've learned in my life is that, as I got older, I didn't know this when I was younger because they didn't really have as many assessments for ADHD and ADD and everything like that. I have adult ADHD.
Wait, what? I wasn't paying
attention. I have adult ADHD. Exactly. So, for me, when I started learning that, like, the way my brain works is just a much more discombobulated version than an average person. And, I started to question things as I was learning about it. Like, I've started so many things but never finished them. And that became just the way that my life was. But I never kind of really understood why things were like that. And as I understood and learned more and researched more and read a lot more about it and was able to talk to my therapist and doctor and everything like that about all the different things that were going on, I started really understanding more about it. And I started understanding about things like journaling will help my thoughts stay in a format for me on paper. So I can come back and even though my brain may be discombobulated, when I look at my journal, I'm able to see what I'm thinking and see it in order. So those things are something that really helped me. And that's actually why I started journaling originally, was just to try to control all these thoughts, and then be able to start something and get it to the finish point.
So I want to talk about that a little bit because it's something I had heard of journaling, but I never truly understood what it was. And I didn't realize that I've been doing it in a different kind of way. So for the people that are watching this right now and listening that don't necessarily never heard of journaling or are not sure what that is, let's go into that for a couple of minutes and really explain the purpose of, what it is and what its purpose is, because I think that'll make a huge difference. It'll help people.
Sure. You know what? Why don't you start talking about, what got you into it and why you started to journal and what results you've seen from your journaling that, I mean, because that's
Okay.
at the end result to me, that's the biggest benefit is not just writing stuff down, but how has it impacted your life in the best possible way,
So I don't know the proper definition of what journaling is, but the way I start to realize that it was important was same thing. We're in the same generation. We didn't have ADHD. If you weren't paying attention, you got smacked around a couple of times, and it was do better, be better, stop being lazy, or stop being distracted. And it's like I can't help it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when I had my salon, as you know, there's 1,000 things that needs to get done. There's 1,000 tasks a day, a week, and a month that needs to be accomplished. So which one is the priority? Which one needs to get done right now versus which one needs to get done later? And too many times, more often than not, you put out the fires. You put out the daily fires immediately right now that are in front of your face. Those are what you can see. But the things that need to get done that makes the business run smoothly, you don't see those necessarily in front of your face. So those go on the back burner, you forget about it, you get distracted, something else happens, and that's it. With all the good intentions to do something, you never get it done. Until the deadline comes, now you're behind, and you're like, oh crap, this is a fire, I got to put this out, right? Now, being in charge of the education department at HCB Beauty, at Here's the Bling, I can't do that anymore. With the salon, I finally got into the groove of things and I was able to hire people and handle things. Well, being with the distributorship now, being in charge of so many different brands at the same time and being in charge of so many different things, it's like, okay, one brand at a time. Because of my salon, that was just my only business. I was able to handle it. But now I'm in charge of 5 different brands education. I can't handle 5 different businesses in essence at the same time. So figuring out smaller goals. Let me accomplish this today. And if this is my goal for the week. And if I break it down every day, if I do this today, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, by Monday, I should have that goal accomplished. I want to create this at the end of the month. Well, then I need to have this done by this week, which means I got to do this every day that week. So then next week, so then next week, so then next week. And by the end of the month, it gets done. And what set me to that was saving money. I wanted to save $1,000 in a month. Well, then that was $250 a week. Well, then that really only came down to being about, 25, 30 bucks a day. So when you're thinking about that big number, you're like, oh crap, that's a lot of money. How the hell am I going to do it? Where do I start? But then by the time you start subdividing it down, for me, the breakdown from monthly to weekly to daily is what helped me figure out journaling. You're able to track that and have that be attainable. Like it's more realistic. That's what worked for me.
So I'm going to, because you're talking about how you journal to save money. Me and my wife have been recently talking about sitting down to figure out budget and go through everything, because every couple of years it's good to do that. What I think would be a fun experiment is for her and I to both journal what our ideas are for the finances, and then switch once we written down what each other's ideas are and see how far off we are, because I know we would be so far off in that what we want for the finances. But it's also something, it's a great way to learn about somebody else, is to have them write down their thoughts as well. So that kind of brings me to talking about, the same thing that you were going through with your journaling. I started at the beginning of this, well, I would say actually towards the end of this last year, but you can see in my journal here, it's hard to kind of show in the camera, but
The green screen, the background's gonna make. There you
Yeah,
go.
no. Maybe I'll shut it off or I'll hold it by my face.
No, you know what? Put it up to your chest. Maybe it'll catch it at your chest. There you
There
go.
we
There you
go.
go.
So what I started to do is just organize my thoughts. And once you don't have to read everything off there, but my roles, because this book breaks down your roles and then everything into a 6-month planner.
Hmm.
All right. So my first role is just a healthy and happy person. That's the number one goal. And the reason is because if I'm not happy and healthy, then everyone around me is going to be miserable. So you got to start with yourself first. And I think that's hugely important because many of us, especially hairdressers, we get so in tune with pleasing others that we forget about ourselves constantly. So it's one of those things that I want to make sure all hairdressers know. It's our job to make ourselves happy and healthy every day so that everyone around us, whether it's clients, whether it's family, children, whoever it is, anybody that's around you, you should be that excitement, that joy, that happiness that you're bringing into the room. And it's very easy and it's very habitual of us. We have bad habits of going in the back room and gossiping and being negative about stuff constantly. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of places that hairdressers live, and they don't have to live into that. So journaling has helped me personally with my daily activity of waking up and making that choice of being happy, choosing healthy diet and exercise, and just writing it down helps me stay connected with that.
So this
So
is
that's
more of a lifestyle. This isn't
it's
a
it's
job or
both.
like a chore that you have to get done.
No, it's a lifestyle,
It's a
and
lifestyle.
if you want to have that uber success, being that profitable stylist at the max, these are things you have to do. When you research every uber rich person out there that runs some super successful company, they're waking up at 4:30 in the morning, they're exercising, they're journaling, they're eating healthy, they're literally putting together a daily plan every day for their entire life, and they don't ever stop. And that's why they're able to succeed, because it's so easy to forget what you're doing.
Hmm.
And then once you get behind the eight ball a little bit, it's very easy to just throw your arms up and walk away. So it's super important to do this. My role number 2 that I have in my journal is to be an awesome husband. And I want to make sure that I can bring as much positivity and joy and happiness to my relationship as possible, and doing it from understanding what my role is and how it changes and differs as my wife and I change throughout life. And those are things that can also bog you down mentally as a business owner. And you can bring those emotions to work and they'll affect your staff and everything
Oh
like
yeah.
that. So it's all kind of works together. The third one is being an amazing parent, that role. So those are the first 3 that I have in my journal. And then when I go to the fourth one, it's the entrepreneur, how to be the best entrepreneur, because you and I are both entrepreneurs. We're not just hairstylists, we're not just salon owners, but we also own our own product companies. I'm a musician. My hobbies are not just hobbies. My hobbies are side careers. They're side jobs. Everything I do, I want to make money off of,
There's
and
a
I want to turn
purpose.
it into a
Yeah.
monetary thing. I'm doing it for fun, but I'm not going to just do it for fun and leave it there. When you're inspired, like we are inspired, all you want to do is create and share. And the only way to share it is to get it out there. And if I'm going to put it out there, I'm hoping, I don't care if it's pennies, but at least something will
Right,
come back on
something.
it.
It's recognized for something. I think that's the most important. You touched on something really important there. Having your house in order, as that expression goes,
Yes,
is
exactly.
so important. A lot too many people don't realize that if you're personally stressed out or if your family situation is messed up, you you haven't even left the house yet. Your first 3 things are just all inside the house. You haven't even walked outside yet to go to work.
Right, right.
And that is so important. That is so important. So then yeah, entrepreneuring, whether you're so that I say it, how do you how you call it? Do you agree with this? Even if you're an employee, I still consider that entrepreneur because you're
Oh yeah.
still working towards an end goal. You have a task in mind.
Entrepreneur to me is just a mindset. It has nothing to do with how many jobs you have or anything like that. An entrepreneur is a mindset. And in fact, I heard something on a podcast, another podcast that I listened to that's just a business and marketing podcast. But the expression is, you know, if you can't, like for us, for example, we're salon owners. Can your salon run without you?
Yes.
Can it be as successful every day without you being there? Can you trust your employees to do everything you need to do? If you can,
Because you set it up as such. You have to
right.
set it up as such.
Most hairstylists, do you think that they can say that, or do you think that they're
Unfortunately
attached
not.
to that? Okay,
Yeah,
so
unfortunately, most people feel attached.
when those hairstylists who want to be entrepreneurs are unable to let go of the job, all they have is a job. They don't have a business that is a successful business without them. They have a job that they go to every day that without them can't make them money. And that's the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur. So if you're going into work every day and you are an employee, where is your head at? Are you just going in to do your job and going home? Are you going in doing your job with another idea of where you're going to go every day? And do you have it written out? Do you have it planned? Are you working towards those goals to get to the next level? Are you climbing that ladder? And the only one who's responsible for making those moves is you as the individual. So that's why writing these things down and journaling and doing that is fantastic. And creating that life for the future, which brings me to my last one, which is number 5. It's the last one in my journal, called The Retired Version of Me. Okay? Now, I don't want to obsess about my future and make that the only thing I'm focusing on, because when you do that, you lose living in the present. So the present is where I live, and in the back of my mind is where I'm keeping that retired version of me. But it's still there. It's not at the forefront, but it's in the back, but it's still there, and it's still goals that I can write down and get to those achievements. But those are the 10 or 15 years down the road achievements for me currently. And you can start this when you're 20 and have them 40 years down the road. Or you can tell yourself, I'm 20 now, I want to retire at 50, which is fantastic if you can do it. And you can journal from the time you're 20 until you're 49 and have everything in order: your finances, your businesses, what you're going to buy, what you're going to sell, where you're going to move. Everything can be listed out, and you can erase it and change it as time goes on. That's the best part, you know, but at least you're working towards that goal.
Living in the present is such a powerful message. I think a lot of people forget about that. I'm guilty of that myself. I decided that my entire 20s, that whole decade, I was just going to write it off as gone. And I was just going to dedicate myself to working as close to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I was going to try to just do everything I could. So by the time I turned 30, like that was it. My life would be over. I just, that was what I had in my mind. And I was like a machine in my 20s. And I missed out on a lot of things. I missed out on family. I missed out on friends. I missed out on personal, mental health and growth. And then once I hit my 30s, I've realized I only made it halfway to my goal. I didn't even, like halfway was awesome. But at the time I felt so defeated that I was like, oh, this sucks. And I spent until 35, I think it was, like the first half of my 30s, miserable, angry, mean, like just everything negative,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was the worst boss the first 10 years of running my business. The worst, dude. And it's because I didn't do any of this stuff. So I totally feel you. And I apologize to all my past employees who had to deal with me when I was that a-hole. Like, I'm sorry. I love you. hope we're cool. Like, honestly,
I know
you
that's all
know?
you could say. That's all
Yeah,
you could say. I did it. We were there. We did it. Yes, we everything you say about us. Yes, that was us.
right. But we learned and we've gotten better, and that's the most important thing.
And that's the thing. Here we are. It
Yeah.
wasn't until my mid 30s things start to click. And then, I turned 40, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, now we're smooth sailing. And now that I'm in my 40s, man, I am finally enjoying. I am
Oh yeah.
finally enjoying. I'm clear. I have clarity, sober, however you want to say it. And
So much
and it's awesome.
empowerment. There's so much empowerment that comes with like just figuring out what makes you happy and being able to live in that space. And some people, I'm jealous of those people that figure it out in their 20s. Super jealous, because it took me till I was like 37, 38. Well, actually I'd say 36 is when I started dipping my toe in the water of it. And it wasn't until I was like 40 before I was like, oh, this is what it's like. And then from 40 to 42, I'm just like, give me more. I want it all,
Right.
I just want all of this amazingness. And why did I wait so long? Like, it's just a totally different way to live mind, body, and soul in today's world now, where you can do things to just make every day amazing. And it doesn't mean every day is without conflict or problems or whatever, but
Oh, no.
I look at those problems in a different way now. Like, I used to feel guilt when I would make a mistake, and I don't feel guilt anymore. I look at it as I made a mistake. It's a learning lesson. Let's figure out a way to be better, or to not make this mistake again, or whatever. But the guilt part of it doesn't hang over me like it used to. And I think that as a hairstylist, especially the people training the younger stylists today, they're just constantly living in that fear and guilt space, that they're afraid to take any risks and things like that. So,
I was teaching a class lat this week, last week. I don't know. I teach so many classes, I can't even remember. But the point is, the stylist made a mistake halfway through the application, and she immediately got defeated, like you're talking about, and I got so excited. I'm like, oh cool, you goofed this part right here. We can actually go over how to fix this now. This is awesome. And she's
yeah.
like, never seen anybody get excited over a mess up. I'm like, no, check this out, come here.
Yeah.
You
It's
know
not a mess up, it's a learning experience.
Yeah,
And
it
that's
was
really the
fun.
best way to look at it. If you
Well,
look at life and you change, like, everyone has a moral compass. So as long as you don't mess up that moral compass, everything is a learning lesson. It's not a
right.
mistake. It's not something wrong. You know what I mean? And that's really how you have to just go about your day. Because then you won't ever be in that negative space. You'll be there for 30 seconds and then it'll disappear. And that's the best way to live.
It really is. It really is. Because how you call it, being good at something means you can accomplish whatever you're doing. But being great at something, that really gives you the true mastery over what you're doing. So being a good colorist means you can mix the color, you can mix the formula, you can apply it, and then you're done. But being a great colorist is, if that tone is off afterwards, you know exactly how to adjust that. You know exactly how to tackle that. You don't shut down and freak out. Same thing with cutting, same thing with applying hair extensions, whatever the service is.
What about when you got that client that, you did a beautiful job and they're just not happy though? So how do you deal with that?
So that's why, like how you said, your first three things with your personal, with your relationship, and with your family, if you don't have that in order, when a client complains, when you put your heart into that service, and you're so proud of what you've done after you're done blow drying it, and then the client turns around, looks themselves in the mirror and say, this is
I
terrible.
don't like it.
I don't
I
like it. I still see
Yeah.
red, and you're like, are you kidding me right now? So if you're not mentally, if your holy trinity isn't put together, you're completely defeated. And this is something that's really hard to explain to new stylists, and I spend a lot of time with new stylists. The fear is like blood in the water. And I'm not trying to say ill of people in general, but clients are like a sharks. They can feel and taste the fear in you.
Oh,
And
100%.
what happens is if a client realizes that energy is coming off of you, that's a fear energy, that's a bad energy, they will react to that energy, and now they're scared because if you don't know what's going on, like they're not happy. They don't know why they're not happy, but they're not happy.
The clients do this, man. They're relaxed in the chair. All of a sudden you see them sit up and they start looking at their hair. And every time like you comb it and then they like have to touch it after you comb it. And all you want to do is like smack them upside the head the whole time they're in your chair. But that's the energy transfer, the energy change that happens. And I see it immediately once they can smell the fear or see that look on the stylist's face. And that's one of the things that's the hardest thing to teach the young stylists. But I ask my staff all the time, and they ask me actually, how do you stay so calm? How do you stay so calm? It's just putting those things into practice, number one. Number two, one of the other lessons that I tell all of my new staff, look, this client who is in your chair, obviously, unless they're a 30-year veteran hairstylist, which most of them are not, you have way more education than they have. You are the professional, and they are in your chair for your advice. So don't be fearful. Don't be scared. Don't show any nervousness because there is no need for that. You've already done the work and the training and put time and effort into it. But if you don't believe in yourself, you can't portray that. Yeah. So it's really allowing them to see an example of confidence behind the chair and then help boosting them into that place for their own spirit to get there. And then they'll be able to start to go through situations and learn how to assert themselves more rather than back off or get nervous. And that's the worst part, I think, that happens is the minute they lose that sense of confidence, their brains get discombobulated and they second guess all of their work, which ending up in that client having to come back because their hair isn't right or whatever the case is. You know what I mean? It's just the minute you lose that confidence, and even in us, in veterans, if anybody knocks us off our game, we like forget how to do our job. You know, it doesn't happen as often, but it still happens every once in a while. I've been doing hair for a long time, been around the game, and every once in a while someone will ask me a question that I don't immediately have the answer to, and I'm like, like I can't get it out, you know, and it's the worst feeling.
It's the worst feeling.
So, yeah.
I was watching a movie, I was watching an old movie for like the 100th time, and it wasn't until this 100th time that I watched it. The analogy was you're like a duck in the water. So on the surface, everybody sees the duck and they're just gliding through and they look calm and cool and collected. But underneath the waterline where you don't see, their feet are going like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
And so one of the advice I give to younger stylists is nobody knows how long you've been in the industry unless you tell them. Nobody knows how old you are unless you tell them. A game that my brother-in-law likes to play with me a lot is he'll show me a picture of an actor and he'll say, how old do you think this person was in their prime during this show? And I'll be like, man, he looks like he was 50 or 60 years old. And my brother-in-law laughs. He goes, he was only 35. You know? And he plays this game with me all the time. He shows me all these older actors, you know, that we grew up with. Back then, 20, 30 years ago, man, I don't know what was in the water or what the hell we were eating, but we looked aged, you know? And nowadays, you look at somebody and you're like, man, you look like you're 25, 30 years old. And they're like, I'm 21. I'm like, okay, well then whatever the hell is in the water now or whatever the hell you're eating,
right?
You know,
yeah.
you look like you're youthful, like you look good, you know, and it's not a shot, because I've even seen people that are 40, 50, 60 years old and I'm like, I don't know, you're in your 30s or 40s. Either I suck at telling age or something has changed and people look youthful nowadays, you know.
Oh, there's a lot better plastic surgeons out there.
There's a lot way better, apparently. Apparently. So nobody needs to know how old you are. Nobody needs to know how long you've been doing hair.
Right.
One of the questions a client will ask, because they just don't know what else to talk about in the beginning, when, especially if it's a new
Or
client,
they judge you based on an appearance,
on an appearance, right?
which is, also something that I think salon owners and stylists need to be conscious of what they portray. But we can get into that in another session.
Yeah, but if somebody says to you, "How long you been doing hair for?" I do like this.
For
I
a
go,
while. For a while.
uh, let's see, it's 10:30 now. I started at 6 this morning, so about 4.5 hours so far. And they're like, "No, no, no, not today. I'm just saying in general."
Yeah, and then you could say, well, I started doing my Barbie's hair at like, two. You can come up with whatever you want. My first
Whatever you
haircut, I
want.
was 4. You remember? On my sister. So
Yeah.
technically, I've been cutting hair since I was 4 years old.
It all comes down to how you play it off.
Exactly.
If you have to answer the question directly because it was asked to you, then it's very much an interrogational type situation, and it messes up your brains.
You could answer it with confidence too. For a stylist that's been working in a salon for 1 year and you're nervous about that, don't be nervous about that. Say, I've only been working here for a year, but I've had my hands in hair for 10.
That's a great
And that
answer.
wouldn't be lying, because you've been doing your friend's hair and things like that since you've been 10 years ago prior to this. You know what I mean? So it's all about the confidence that you're exuding. And it really shouldn't matter to the client what the time frame is. It should matter about what you did in that time frame, because that's really the thing that matters most. You may have gone to 1 year of beauty school and gotten a job and been at that salon for 1 year, but in between the time you graduated and the time that you started on the floor, and even after you started on the floor, you could have been doing intense training for competition, training with bunches of the best hairstylists out there and learning their individual crafts, how to do updos by this person and how to do haircuts by this person and colors by this person and vivids by this person, and spent thousands of dollars on that education and been way better than somebody that's been doing hair for 10 years and never invested in their education. So those are the things that are really the important part to talk about when the customers are there, is you can even deflect that question and say, I may not have been doing hair in the salon for as long as so-and-so and so-and-so, but I put way more money and time and education under my belt than they've ever done. So
I think
there's
that's
always ways to do it.
That's true. I think that's another important topic. So having your plan, journaling, having those 5 things that you were talking about, your personal,
Just my personal ones, but everybody can figure out what works for them.
yeah, but I think those are good. I think those are really good 5 points that everybody can address to some degree. I guess minus the kids part. You either have kids or you don't. But
And
or
you
at least
like them or you don't.
or you either like them or you don't, right? Today, for now.
Yeah.
But education really is an important one as well too. Just so
Yes, it is.
once you're moving along, you have to. How often, in your opinion, do you think you should get educated?
I'm still learning daily, and I'm constantly looking into different ways to learn. Those topics have changed over the years of what I'm wanting to learn about, but I still love watching classes on how to do basic haircuts. And the things that I pick up now, I may know the haircut inside and out, but the way someone's teaching it now, that's how I get ideas on what I can better myself when I'm teaching. Because I'll hear a catchphrase that someone uses, and I'm like, God, I love that. Way he said that line, it really made an impact on me. I'm going to steal that from so-and-so next time I do a class, because I know that I'm going to hit more of a chord with people when I say those words, because he made it sound so sexy or so cool or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm always in tune with the way people are communicating to me and what I'm attracted to just verbally. And that's what I pick up when I go watch classes now. It's different for me than it is for the newbie stylist that's paying attention to every hand motion he's doing.
The importance of learning something daily, something new daily, is I can't even put into the right words how the impact of that, how huge the impact of that is. The complacency, I think, is what kills everybody. I think that's
thousand
the
percent.
number one thing that a lot of stylists start getting burned out in their careers. A lot of people just start checking out of life because oh, what'd you do today? The same thing I do every day. Same crap every day. Different day.
Right.
And unfortunately, that mentality, it really drags you down, man. It slows you down. It gets in your way. It becomes this hurdle that turns into a mountain that becomes almost impossible to climb and get over. You got to stay that positive. You got to stay positive. What else you got? So, because to me, between the journaling, having a plan, and executing it easily, measurable goals, and the education, that to me was huge. One thing that I learned when I was getting out of debt in my early years was treating yourself with your profit once in a while and not feeling guilty for spending money on yourself.
I mean, I'm the opposite. I never felt guilty for spending money on myself. I needed someone to like rein me in. That's why I'm lucky to have my wife, because we have money saved now, which I would have never done had we never met. I would have just been like, I had the attitude, I know I'm a good stylist. I can always go to work and make more. So my accounts were like depleted beyond, and then I would just have to try to replace the negative. But once I got married and had kids, that's when I learned how to change all that, because that was my lifestyle. I was definitely living the line, walking the line on that.
I know that one.
Yeah.
I've had those years. I know that one.
Had to borrow money once from my dad when I was in my early 20s for like a mortgage payment and, stuff like that, where he's looking at me, shaking his head, giving me the check. Like, this is the one and only time I'm bailing you out, dude. So, yeah, but it is, what I would like to talk about with the journaling part is it doesn't have to be as daunting as you may think it is, because that was one of the things for me. Like,
How you mean?
I didn't want to journal because I thought it was going to be too much. Like trying to sit down and organize my thoughts to me was too much. Like, the way that I was living and working before this, it was like, no, I don't have time for this, or I always had an excuse of why I didn't do it. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I sat down and started doing it that I realized that this is only going to benefit me, and there is zero negative side to it at all. In fact, the best part about it is it makes you slow down when you're doing that. It makes your brain slow down, it makes your body slow down, and it allows you to think a little bit more at a snail's pace rather than like 50 jackrabbits running around bouncing off each other, which is the way my brain normally runs. But what I love about, there's so many different journals you can get. This one I like because it's just a 6-month journal, so I can only plan for 6 months at a time. And my roles will never change in every book that I have, but I'm only thinking daily, weekly, monthly for 6 months. That's it. And that's how I put everything together. And I basically balance them out. Like, okay, these are my daily things that we want to do daily in these categories. These are my weekly activities and focuses that I want to get done weekly. And you compile a list for a couple of weeks, and then you leave a week open. And that week that's open in the middle is your catch-up week, where you say, okay, I didn't get these things done, so let's recompile our new list, and let's move these things that didn't get done in the last 2 weeks to the top of the list. And then what can I add to the bottom of the list of things that I may get to? And that way you never feel a pressure. You feel a sense of accomplishment because you're accomplishing your daily goals, and you don't have to accomplish all of them. You just want to get something done. You check one thing off of your box. It's like looking at your house going, I've got laundry to do. I've got to clean the house. I got to, take the kids here. I got to do that. And you do all those things. But if you planned out how you were going to do them, you would feel a sense of accomplishment after doing them, rather than just being exhausted going, ugh, I hate this. Today sucked. Well, it's like, no, I got a lot of stuff done today and I feel good about it. So that helps that mental change.
Do you look at it in the morning before your day starts? Do you review your notes?
I do review my notes and I look at everything, and I have space to write about what I felt during doing those things too, because that actually helps me, especially when it comes to the personal stuff with, being a good husband, father, and taking care of myself. I like to write down what transpired through accomplishing those goals. Was there a negative situation that happened that caused me to understand something new about myself that I can make better? Or did I do something that made me feel proud that I should take a moment and just enjoy the fact that
Hmm.
I did this the right way and it was something I struggled with in the past? So it's another way to reward yourself where you don't necessarily have to do it financially, but you can reward yourself just in your own words and thoughts. And that's become something more personal and rewarding to me than spending money on myself. Because you get to a point where you have enough money where you can just buy whatever you want. There's no like good feeling about that anymore, or at least it doesn't last.
Right.
But at the point in life that I'm at, I feel like those like independent personal like journeys within that you succeed at, those are the things that benefit you and give you that smile and that happiness and that joy. And they keep you in that living in that space daily. So I think it's important to congratulate and take a moment to just pat yourself on the back when you do accomplish those good things. Nobody else is going to do it, so you have to do it for yourself.
So I personally take 30 minutes from 11:30 to midnight. That's my little half hour where I decompress, I mentally review the day, and I journal out how my day went. Do you set aside a certain amount of time at the end of the day or at some point in the day to review your day, to say, and write it down, like what is I tell people to take a 30-minute block and meditate.
Mhm.
And this is, you'll make sure that you're able, as long as you consistently do it at the same time every day, then you'll make sure you'll be able to keep up with it. It won't feel overwhelming. What advice would you give somebody to make sure that they can keep up every day with making sure they're dedicating that time where it doesn't feel like so much work?
Sure. The exact same thing that you said. I wake up every day at 4:45 in the morning. My wife and I have, most of the time we'll work out together. We meet down in our basement. We work out from 5 to 6, and then we'll shower, get ready for the day. And I usually will sit down and start looking at my journal while we're eating breakfast. Because she's also doing kind of the same thing. She's preparing for her day. She's a teacher. So, she's got a bunch of kindergartners she's got to go deal with. And that takes a lot of mental preparation as well. Not to mention all the rest of the things that come through working in a school environment and being a teacher. But yeah, we both sit and use that time in the morning, which is nice because we also have conversation and we're there for about an hour and a half together before she leaves for work.
Mm.
But we do get that time, a good 30 minutes, that we're just focused on what we need to do for the day. And because her and I spend that time together, we actually bounce a lot off of each other, which is nice to have a partner to work with, which helps us both because, there could be a day when one of us is down and the other person picks us up. And it's helpful to have that before you even leave the house. But that's my routine is I do mine in the morning because it really sets me up for the rest of my day. And I feel like my brain personally works the best in the morning because
Okay.
by the time I'm at home and put the kids to bed, like I just want to go to bed myself. I'm tired.
Your mashed potatoes.
I don't want to think. I can't even watch like a normal TV show because like it's too much thinking, at that point. So I'm definitely a morning guy.
I got you. I got you. Yeah, I think that's man. I feel good. All right, so same time next week. That's our time for the day.
Same time next week.
It's like
Yeah,
a
that's
therapist
it.
session, right?
It is.
No,
It is.
man,
Yeah.
no. This is. Think about how much we've accomplished. Like how long we've been going at it. It's already been 45. We're coming up on 45 minutes. And it just feels like we're just hitting the surface of this conversation.
Definitely. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of understanding and organizing of thoughts that people don't do, that if they just took a step back and took the time to do it, the negativity that they're so uber focused on would disappear. And it's so hard to explain that to others. And people, when you start talking about journaling and this and that and working out and eating healthy, a lot of people think like, oh, that's great, but they're not going to do it because it seems daunting to them. It seems like a complete uproot of what they're used to. And the only question I have to ask is, I mean, if you're unhappy and you're doing that, why are you still doing that? Why don't you want to make a change? Why wouldn't you want to be smiling every day and have people asking you the questions? How do you do it? How do you get through the day? Why are you always smiling? You're always so happy. Like, I love when I hear that from my clients. I love when I hear that from my kids, and that to me means that I'm living the right way. I'm doing what I need to do to be happy. So that's the only question that I want people to ask themselves is, are you truly happy doing what you're doing? And if you're not, don't be afraid to make a change, because it's only going to get better.
It's true. It's something that I had to learn a long time ago. Have an opinion. Let it be your own.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be popular. It may not be accepted. It may not be shared by everybody else. But at least you have an opinion, And then this way,
having an open and having an opinion and also being open.
But being open,
that's the
right.
key. Yeah.
Right.
Because I feel like in society today, we've got a lot of opinions, but not openness to hearing the other side of the story.
The other side of
it. And you may not have to agree with all of what you hear, but everyone has a valid point. In some way or another, there's a valid point in there. They may not be a good person as far as how they express it. They may choose the wrong words to get their point across. There's a million factors that go into that, but if you're open, you can hear through the BS and get what they're trying to say and validate other people's opinions, because that to me is just love. That's love for human beings. That's empathy. That's being able to hear and understand and not push an opinion on somebody else, but be confident in what you believe, because it's only for you. Right. It ain't for the other people. So you shouldn't be trying to force everything on anybody else. Just own what you believe in and keep it for yourself and live in that. And that's fine. And that's an important thing in today's world, especially as hairstylists who are dealing with lots of opinionated clients. That's how to have a conversation and not have a fight, which I think you're familiar with, right?
No, just a little bit, just a little bit too much.
I mean, I'm sure we could talk a lot about holiday Christmas dinners and Thanksgiving dinners that got heated over an opinion, and to me, when I hear about stuff like that, I shake my head and I'm like, you ninnies, all you guys are fighting over stupid stuff that doesn't matter because you're trying to force something on someone else instead of just shutting your face and saying, you know what, I don't have to worry about whether they believe me or not. I believe it. So
it comes down to the personal growth, and it comes down to learning something every day. That's really what matters the most. All right. That is what we got. This was awesome.
I loved it.
This is going to be part of well, this goes right in line with what I was talking to Bernard with last week for this year. We want to bring on guest people. We want to speak to more people. And what a way to start off the year. Thank you, Giovanni, for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Love being here.
We're going to have you back soon because I love talking to you and everybody loves listening to you too. All right. Hit us up in the comment section. Let us know what you all think. Do you guys journal? What are some of the ideas that you could share with everybody else in the community here on how you prepare for your future and your business? And we'll catch y'all next week.